Uh, uh, uh. The stupid brute is blocking me. Hello and welcome. Aquarister here, back with another video, and today we are going to be looking at my healer hammer build. Now, with season 2, I've kind of shifted where I'm going with my focus on my builds and stuff, and I'm hopping back into healer builds actually. Now, I've always been a healer for a very long time now, and I've really enjoyed it. And last season, I realized I didn't do a whole lot of build videos, let alone healer build videos, especially my favorite build, my healer hammer build. So today, that is what we are going to be getting into, my healer hammer build for season 2. Before we fully hop into the video here, I do just want to say, if you like today's content or just the content in general, you can definitely drop the video a like. And if you do want to see more content from me, you can always subscribe. It is free and easy to do, and it really does help me out, so I do appreciate it. I also stream throughout the week on Twitch, so if you do want to go drop the channel a follow, I do stream throughout the week, and I'd love to have you stop on in, ask some questions, or just lurk and hang out. But let's get into today's video. Alright, to get it started, we are going to take a look at the gear. So taking a look at the armor first, I do only have 2 stacks of freedom, and I will say I am trying to get more stacks of freedom on this build, but obviously those pieces can be fairly expensive to get and very hard to craft sometimes, especially if you don't have a whole ton of gold like myself right now. But I do have Freedom Resilient Fortifying Sacred Ground on my hat. This I did have crafted, or I crafted it, I can't remember, but a while back, and I've been using it ever since because it is an absolutely phenomenal hat for a healer. For my chest piece, I am rocking a Vigor Refreshing Resilient. This was a free chest piece from the Outpost Rush crates, so it's been working fine. Otherwise, what you're going to find in my armor is I like to run Refreshing Evasion. So I only have 1 stack of Refreshing, or otherwise Refreshing Evasion on those 2 pieces, or on these 3 pieces. So that's 3 stacks on my armor. Plus on my jewelry, I do have 2 extra stacks between my earring and my amulet. So that puts me at 5 stacks of Refreshing Evasion. Now, I know a lot of healers are going to say, but why are you not rocking Refreshing? Why don't you run full Refreshing? For PvE content, I will run Refreshing on my PvE healer build. I do think Refreshing is really, really good for PvE because you have a lot more opportunity to stand still. You're not as active. Getting your cooldowns back is much, much easier. But for PvP, I always go the Refreshing Evasion route. I'm always moving. I use Beacon a lot, so that's a pretty long cooldown, and being able to trigger a cooldown with my dodges and with my light and heavy attacks is pretty huge. So PvE, Refreshing, PvP, Refreshing Evasion. There are a lot of PvP healers that will use Refreshing as well, and there's nothing wrong with that. That still works just fine if that's what you're used to. I personally just have that preference of using Evasion for PvP, regular Refreshing for PvE. Now, looking at my armor again, you can see that I am rocking the full Arboreal Rune Glass because I do like to increase my damage output of my nature damage overall. I like having just a little bit higher DPS output as a healer, but that is kind of the route that I go because it does allow me to kind of hold my own against some people, and it does allow me to, actually do some damage as a healer without being a full, DPS brained healer build. So full Rune Glass. Again, my boots I need to replace still because these are newer. And then I also wear a ring that has Hardy Sacred Nature damage. I've had this ring for a very long time. I think I crafted it a really long time ago, and I've just used it for everything that I do for healer. Because I do like that extra nature damage, like I said. You can obviously switch that out for other third perks, but this is the route that I go. For my weapons, I do rock the Glowing Life Crystal Staff. If I'm rocking Divine Embrace, I do occasionally change up my build. I actually have been working on a Splashing Light build, which I'll probably do a video on in the future as well, so definitely keep an eye out for that. But for my Divine Embrace builds, I'm always using the Glowing Life Crystal Staff because that cooldown reduction is massive. And then for my hammer, which this hammer can change around depending on what you want, but I go with the Sundering Shockwave, Arboreal Attunement, Trenchant Crits. Really, the main 2 perks that I go for are Shockwave, or the Sundering Shockwave, and then some form of either Arboreal Attunement, Chain Nature, anything like that. But anything to just get that nature damage on top of it. And then I do use the rune glass in both my hammer and in my life staff, so I get those 2 extra ticks of poison damage, which are nature damage, and that also is buffed by approximately 15% between my rune glass and my ring. So that's what I kind of rock for gear. For heart rune, it's really up to you as far as what you would want to run for a heart rune. I really like Bio Bomb. I think Bio Bomb just has so much opportunity to really help your team. It does a slow, it does an exhaust, it does a disease. Like, it's a really good heart rune, so that's why a lot of my builds will use it. But there are some other options. You do have Dark Ascent, which it did get a little bit of a buff. I've been using it and having fun with it. I don't think it's the best heart rune, but it is fun to use. Otherwise, Stone Form is always a really good option because it just gets you out of a lot of those situations. So from a heart rune standpoint, just kind of like go with whatever you have fun with, I guess. Heart runes can be really fun to use. You can use it defensively, use it offensively. Just kind of depends on how you want to use it. But Bio Bomb is my pick, so kind of base that, around whatever you want to do with your build. But next, let's take a look at the attributes, and then we'll get into the mastery. All right, so taking a look at the attributes, it's a pretty straightforward layout, and you have 2 different options for attribute layouts depending on how you are as a healer. One is the route that a lot of people go, and that would be 200 con, 300 focus, or however much focus you can get. That is going to increase your survivability because at 200 con, you do get the plus 10% increase to physical and elemental armor, which isn't that bad, but honestly, I don't actually go that route. I actually stick with at least 150. So I usually do 150, or in this case, 157 con, because I'll take a 40 con food, get me up to 157. I can actually take a 33 con as well, and that'll get me up to 150. So if I want to save on some money, I can actually use a 33 con food and get away with that. But this is the attribute layout that I like to go with. It really works well for me. I have really good survivability even with it, but again, a lot of healers are going to struggle with 150 con from what I've heard. I've had some people say, 200 is the only way that they can go, but I think 150 is really nice because you still have that pretty decent healing output, some damage output, and again, survivability wise, I don't have a major problem with it. There are times where, yeah, it might be nice to have that, but there are times even with 200 con where it'd be nice to have 250 con. So there's always going to be situations where you're going to find different attribute layouts would maybe save you or help you in certain situations. So play around with it and see what works best for you, but this is what works best for me. All right, next we are going to take a look at our weapon mastery. Now for life staff, this is my go-to life staff build. I might change it up here and there as far as, if I do my splash of light build or anything like that, but for my Divine Embrace build, this is my go-to. I am just going for healing output, just, my main build, this is it. So I do run Divine Embrace, and then we go with Sacred Ground, of course, and then Beacon. Now, Orb of Protection did get a buff where now it grants a 20% Fortify, and I have played around with it a little bit, and I do think it is really good. But Orb of Protection, it's kind of one of those abilities where, like, you don't see it working, I guess. So it's kind of goofy in that way, but I do like to run Beacon. Beacon is like my go-to now. It used to be my go-to, and then I stopped using it, started using Orb a lot more, and now I've actually switched back to Beacon. But this is my go-to build. We do work down towards the Divine Blessing, and then on this right tree, you kind of have one free perk, and I go with Protector's Touch. Outside of this is the one perk that you can actually mess around with, move around depending on how you need it. I just have found that Protector's Touch is good because it does increase my survivability a bit, and just overall, I don't know, more survivability just means that when I run that 150 con especially, it just gives me a little bit more. So running that, I think, does help with the 150 con. On top of that, with our hammer build, which we'll get into in just a little bit, that also has the increase in Fortify. So even though we do have a lack of armor because we're below 200 con, we have some of these abilities that actually will increase our Fortify, meaning our armor overall. So I think there are some things that make up for that. Obviously, if you still have the 200 con, you're still going to be able to get even more armor on top of that. But I do think that there's enough survivability if you run Protector's Touch, and then on the hammer side, have at least Wrecking Ball to get that extra Fortify as well. That can give you quite a bit more survivability than you would think. So that is the Life Staff. Let's hop on over to the hammer. So for the hammer, there are two abilities that I'm going to say that you pretty much always want to have, and that is Shockwave and Wrecking Ball. The Wrecking Ball, you do want to get all the way leveled up, as well as the Shockwave, but with this Wrecking Ball, you do get your 20% Fortify, and it is for 7 seconds, so it's a pretty long Fortify for you, and it applies to that area of 1.5 meters as long as you have that fully leveled. So for your third ability, you have an option, or you have multiple options. The only ability that I wouldn't recommend for a third ability with the Healer Hammer is Mighty Gavel. And that's because with Mighty Gavel, you ideally would want to level it up pretty far, maybe try to go for the cooldown, but really, I mean, your hammer is not going to do crazy DPS with this build, so that's why I don't really go for it. But you definitely can try it. I've seen people try it. I've tried it myself. I just didn't care for the playstyle as much, I think, as opposed to just like damage output, because I know I'm a healer. I know I'm not doing crazy damage, but I think the playstyle of Mighty Gavel just didn't work for me. So I usually go Path of Destiny. Path of Destiny works really, really well. You get the cooldown reduction, you get the slow, you get all of that. So it works really, really well for just kind of that backline healing where you still want to help the front line with more than just heals. You don't have a Void Gauntlet to buff them, but you can apply those slows and apply those staggers and all that fun stuff with the Path of Destiny. Now, if you find yourself not using the Path of Destiny quite as much, you can definitely go with Clear Out. Clear Out does increase your survivability a bit because it just allows you to have another CC for when they do get close. It has Grit, has a pretty big area of effect. You also apply another Fortify. So I have run Clear Out before, and if you stack a Clear Out Fortify with your Wrecking Ball, that's a 40% Fortify that you can get on your character. So that's a really, really big buff to your defenses. So if you want to go tankier, Clear Out. If you want to help more with that front line while you're in the back line, Path of Destiny also allows you to catch people with Path of Destiny. And then your third option for your third ability is going to be Armor Breaker. Now, you might question why Armor Breaker if we're not worried about DPS, and that is because you apply a 30% rend with Armor Breaker. So, and that's for 10 seconds. So it's a really long rend application. I mean, that's 30% of their armor gone. So let's say they have 200 con. Now they have 10% less con than if they had that. So Armor Breaker is very, very strong, especially if you're getting pushed by like a heavy armor, anything like that. Any form of reduction when you're doing that much is going to help increase your damage or your team's damage against them. So Armor Breaker is also a fantastic choice. It's just going to be more aggressive. So you have three of these options. Let's go through them one more time. The number one option that I like to go with is Path of Destiny. It's a really good blend between where you can be aggressive but also be defensive with it. Your Clear Out is going to be kind of a full defensive type of an ability, so you're going to stack that with your Wrecking Ball, and that will give you extra Fortify. And then your last one's going to be Armor Breaker, which is where you're going to get more aggressive. You're going to be trying to apply that rend to the enemy so that your team can follow up or you can follow up. In the case of using Armor Breaker, I may suggest trying the 200 con to see if you can maybe be a little bit more aggressive with those plays. With me with Path of Destiny, I do sit back a little bit more. I don't go quite as aggressive as I would if I were running Armor Breaker. So the 150 con still works great for me even with a hammer. But that's what I run for my hammer abilities. You can see that I run a lot of, these passive perks. And then the big thing is I want to get to Aftershock, because Aftershock allows us to apply those slows after really any crowd control effect. So it's really, really huge to have the Aftershock, because that slow, it can save you. It allows you to peel for yourself. You can get away. It just works really, really well. But that is my hammer build. This is slightly updated from the last video. I don't even think I did the season 1 video, so this is the season 2 update of what I'm running for this season for my hammer build, and I'm really happy with it so far. It's been really fun, especially with the cross-server OPRs. So I hope this build really works for you as well. All right, I have a little bit of gameplay footage that we'll get into here, so I'm gonna pop that up. You can watch some of that. Otherwise, I do play this build on stream as well, so definitely stop by a stream if you want to see it live or see me kind of messing with it if I want to try something new. But definitely check out a stream sometime because it is fun to chat with people and see what builds other people are running, what they're liking, outside of just the meta builds. But enjoy some gameplay of my healer hammer build. All right, that is going to do it for this one. So thank you very much for watching today's video. If it did help you out or if you liked it, please drop it a like. It does help the video out a lot. And if you do want to see more content, you can always subscribe to the channel. It is free and it does help me out a lot because I love seeing that people are interested in my videos and would like to see more from me. If you do want to see more live content, I do stream throughout the week on Twitch. I stream more than just New World. I stream a little bit of Ark, some Diablo, stuff like that. So we do have a good time. So definitely feel free to stop on in, say hello, have a chat, or just lurk and watch. I really do appreciate any of the support like that. But that is going to do it for today's video. So until next time, I'll see everyone later.